From incredibly fast stealth bombers to next-generation supersonic interceptors, these formidable war machines personify an unstoppable force that sends a chilling shiver down the spine. In a few words, they fly around, they're big, and they're terrifying. So we're about to embark on a breathtaking expedition that lives up to the legendary legacy of Top Gun. These 20 fighter jets could destroy the world in 30 minutes. From incredibly fast stealth bombers to next-generation supersonic interceptors, these formidable war machines personify an unstoppable force that sends a chilling shiver down the spine. In a few words, they fly around, they're big, and they're terrifying. So, we're about to embark on a breathtaking expedition that lives up to the legendary legacy of Top Gun. These 20 fighter jets could destroy the world in 30 minutes. But before we begin, make sure to subscribe to our channel and leave your like. Now, let's get started. Number 20. F-16 Fighting Falcon. You know the phrase, size doesn't matter? Well, in the case of the F-16 Fighting Falcon, that might be true, because this U.S. aircraft is known for being a more compact option compared to others on the list. However, that doesn't mean it's not capable. It's a proven machine and has shown its skill in the skies countless times. In an air combat role, the maneuverability and combat capability of the F-16 outperform any other potential threat fighter. It can locate targets in all weather conditions and detect low-flying aircraft amid radar and ground noise. In terms of range, it can travel more than 800 kilometers from its launch point, hit its target, and easily return home. It's so precise that even if it can't visually see its target, its radar and tracking systems ensure the jet makes contact. Number 19. Dassault Rafale. The Dassault Rafale is a fourth-generation multi-role fighter with 2 engines and delta wings, designed and manufactured by Dassault Aviation, with a rather long name. Introduced in 2000, the Rafale is produced for both land use with the French Air Force and carrier-based operations with the French Navy. However, if you look at the history of this aircraft, you'll see that this wasn't France's initial plan. In the 1970s, France, along with other nations, had the idea of working together to create a single aircraft that could equip all air forces and be easier to manufacture than the various models most nations had. It was this union that gave rise to the Eurofighter Typhoon. However, there was a problem. Several discussions took place about who would do most of the work in building the aircraft. So, France decided to go its own way. This eventually led to the emergence of Dassault Aviation. But even then, things weren't easy in the development sector. The aircraft went through several delays due to budget cuts, but eventually it was launched. The aircraft is available in 3 main versions: the Rafale C, a single-seat version for land use; the Rafale B, a 2-seat version for land use; and the Rafale M, a single-seat version for carrier operations. Although it took a while to be launched, the Dassault Rafale was designed to be as modern as other models of the time. The combined features of various aircraft from the past created an incredibly agile fighter, capable of soaring through the skies with ease. It is harder to detect on radar, and while not fully stealthy, it certainly has countermeasures incorporated into the jet. The aircraft is so good, in fact, that several nations currently have it in their air forces. Number 18. The Lockheed Martin F-35 Lightning II. If you're looking for one of the definitive jets of our time, just look at the Lockheed Martin F-35 Lightning II. The Lightning II is easily one of the most advanced aircraft ever produced. It's so good that this 5th-generation fighter has the capability to be used for many years in the United States, and they consider it one of their most important assets in future battles and wars. For example, unlike the last jet, the Lightning II is a completely stealthy aircraft, meaning you could send several of them behind enemy lines, and they would never be detected by radar until it's too late. This ability can be vital not only for stealth missions, but also for being able to launch strikes on enemy nations before they can react. And although it may not always seem so, the Lightning II actually has the capability to carry a huge firepower. This is an aircraft that can deal heavy damage, carrying up to 8,000 kilograms of heavy munitions at once, which will create a massive explosion. But wait, there's more. This jet is so good that it can fly at a speed of Mach 1.6, and even with a fully loaded arsenal, it can conduct missions over extremely long distances. So you could have a fleet of these on an aircraft carrier, send them out to sea, have them move to where they need to go, launch bombs and missiles before they are even noticed, and then get out of there without problems. Now, do you understand why the United States considers this jet so important? They call it the most powerful jet in the world, and that's probably very true. Let me know if you need any more. Number 17. Chengdu J-20 Stealth Fighter. From the United States, Now let's move to one of its major adversaries, China. The Chengdu J-20 is easily one of China's most dangerous aircraft and has been used for quite some time to help impose its will in the region. And before you say, well, given what you said about the Lightning II, this aircraft surely doesn't stand a chance, no, that wouldn't be correct. Although the F-35 Lightning II is the most powerful jet in the world, the Chengdu is an aircraft that could match it in certain areas should an aerial battle occur. Not to mention that, as the name suggests, it is a stealth fighter, so if these jets were to carry out a surprise attack on an F-35, the enemy jets could actually be in trouble. As mentioned earlier, what's concerning is that China seems quite ready and willing to deploy these jets at any time. In January of this year, a report came out saying that the Chinese government was conducting some kind of test with the Chengdu J-20 in the East China Sea. It's unclear what kind of tests or operations were being carried out, as no one has been able to get a clear answer. This is rarely a good thing when something like a stealth fighter can be seen in an area where a reporter could actually witness it. Another thing to note about this aircraft is that, once fully operational, it made China only the second country in the world, at the time, to have a fully equipped stealth aircraft unit. The first being the United States. The avionics of the J-20 aim to achieve situational awareness through advanced sensor fusion, while denying situational awareness to the adversary through stealth and electronic warfare. But no matter how you look at it, this is an aircraft that could cause a lot of damage if allowed. So, let's hope that doesn't happen anytime soon. Number 16. Lockheed Martin F-22 Raptor. While the F-35 Lightning II is the best the United States has to offer at the moment, a close second would be the Lockheed Martin F-22 Raptor. This is one of the first fifth-generation jets that was completed and lived up to the expectations of the United States. The aircraft was designed as an air superiority fighter but also has ground attack capability, electronic warfare, and signal intelligence. This means it's a very versatile fighter, exactly what the United States wants for its Air Force and other branches with jet capability. One of the great ironies of the Lockheed Martin F-22 Raptor, however, is that there should be hundreds of them around the world by now. But once they were completed and entered service in 2005, the high cost, combined with a lack of missions they could be used for, led to the production of fewer than 200 units. Now, of course, that's still more than enough to inflict serious damage on an enemy nation. In addition, despite the challenges, it remains one of the best aircraft in existence. They may have moved on to the F-35, but this jet is still used for missions and will be deployed in large-scale battles if necessary. It has incredible strike capabilities and is also a stealth fighter. Currently, the plan is to use these jets until the 2030s, by which time a replacement should be ready. But until then, it will have had a long and distinguished career. Number 15. Eurofighter Typhoon. The development of the Eurofighter Typhoon effectively began in 1983 with the Future European Fighter Aircraft program, a multinational collaboration between the United Kingdom, Germany, France, Italy, and Spain. As mentioned, France would eventually leave the group, but the remaining countries stayed on, and the Eurofighter Typhoon was soon created. One of the main features of this aircraft is that it was designed not only to be functional at the time it was built, but also to remain effective for many decades into the future. It was made to be easily upgraded. For example, while the initial model featured only a limited set of weapons and missiles, this would eventually change to make it more suitable for specific types of missions. Additionally, it became capable of carrying a wider range of missiles and armaments as time went on. The Typhoon made its combat debut during the 2011 military intervention in Libya, with the UK's Royal Air Force and the Italian Air Force conducting aerial reconnaissance and ground strike missions. While some nations are looking to replace the Typhoon, others are quite comfortable keeping what they have and upgrading it where possible. The Eurofighter Typhoon is a solid aircraft and an excellent fighter jet, exactly what the group set out to create. Number 14. The Saab JAS-39 Gripen. Normally, you don't think of the Swedes as people who have much need for an air force, but let me be clear. Just because you don't fight often doesn't mean you don't need one. The Saab JAS-39 Gripen is the aircraft they chose to make up the bulk of their air force, and while it's not the most widely used aircraft out there, many nations are impressed with what the Swedes have managed to create. Ironically, the only reason some countries have access to this aircraft is because Sweden was willing to loosen its restrictions on exports. After all, they're one of the most well-known nations for maintaining neutrality in most matters, but in this case, they didn't mind showing off their engineering skills. The reason why the Saab JAS-39 Gripen is so desirable to some is that it's an incredibly and capable fighter, able to carry out a wide range of missions at impressive speeds. It also has a reduced stealth capability, which is very useful. Number 13. The F-15E Strike Eagle. Back to the United States, where we take a look at another one of its impressive jets, the F-15E Strike Eagle. Unlike other aircraft on this list, the Strike Eagle is designed to be operated by two people. It's also more focused on air-to-air and air-to-ground missions than anything else. Thanks to its long-range capability and ability to fly at low altitudes, it becomes much harder to detect on radar. The Strike Eagle can approach a designated target, destroy it, and escape before the enemy even knows it's there. Its radar system is incredibly advanced and can help pilots locate targets both in the air and on the ground, even from a great distance. And if you're wondering why this jet has two pilots, it's because the second pilot is the weapons systems officer. So, while one is the main pilot, the other operates the targeting systems to ensure the strike hits its mark. It might seem more complicated that way, but it's highly effective, and the United States is very satisfied with this aircraft. Number 12. The Mikoyan MiG-35. As I mentioned earlier, Russia is one of the biggest jet manufacturers in the world, and the model that set the tone for them for decades was the MiG. These jets have been used in key conflicts ever since jet warfare began. They are fast, powerful, and hard to bring down. The Mikoyan MiG-35 is the best they have now, and many consider it a direct rival to the F-35 Lightning II if these two powers were to clash. The Russians know they've brought a serious amount of firepower to the table, with anti-ship K-31A missiles equipped with active radar systems, anti-radar Ka-31P missiles, Ka-29 TE missiles, and TV-guided Ka-B-500KR bombs, all part of the aircraft's guided weapons arsenal. Despite this arsenal, the aircraft is incredibly agile in the air, which makes it even more deadly. It can perform quick maneuvers and engage in combat at extremely high altitudes. Although Russia doesn't have as many of these MiGs as it ideally would, the ones it does have will serve as the backbone of its forces until the next MiG takes to the skies. Number 11. Chengdu J-10 Vigorous Dragon. Now we head back to China with the second jet from the country on this list. Unlike the previous one, this isn't a stealth fighter. The Chengdu J-10, also known as the Vigorous Dragon, is designed primarily for dogfighting with other jets, and that's basically it. It can carry out other missions if necessary, but that's not its default configuration. And since it was specifically built for aerial combat, the J-10 features a highly capable radar system, able to track 10 targets simultaneously and engage 2 of them at the same time. The aircraft's internal armament includes twin-barrel cannons, and there are 11 hardpoints on the wings that can be outfitted with a variety of missiles if the mission calls for it. Once it was declared operational, it was not only deployed within China, but also offered to other countries, including Pakistan. It's worth noting that there are several variants of this jet, including upgraded versions. So, while this may not be the most impressive fighter on this list, that's not really the point. The point is that the jet works, and it can get the job done. And that alone makes it a threat to anything it's targeting. Number 10. KF-21. Boromai next up is a jet that isn't fully completed yet. In fact, it's still a prototype. But the KF-21 is a very important prototype, as it could become the future of South Korea's Air Force. So far, it has completed its first maiden flight, and more tests are scheduled throughout the year until it can be fully verified as operational. Now, you might think South Korea wouldn't need such a large air force given the strong allies it has, but never forget that they live under the constant threat posed by their northern neighbors. They know that war with them could break out at any moment, and as a result, they want to be prepared if a new conflict begins. This new jet could help them achieve that in the future. Number 9. Sukhoi Su-57 Felon. This is another Russian fighter, developed out of the need to create more affordable military aircraft. Building these machines isn't cheap, no matter which country they belong to. The Su-57 is a multi-role fighter, capable of air combat as well as ground and naval strikes. It incorporates stealth, super maneuverability, super cruise, integrated avionics, and a substantial internal weapons payload. In other words, it's an aircraft built to handle any challenge across a range of missions, exactly the way Russia likes to design its fighters. While the first prototype for the Felon emerged in 2010, it wasn't until a decade later that it began being integrated into Russian service due to technical issues. However, for now, it's operational, which means it's at Russia's disposal and ready to be called into action at any time. Number 8. F-15X Eagle II. The F-15X Eagle II is a modern and improved version of the legendary F-15, one of the most iconic fighter jets of the United States. Although it carries the same name as the Strike Eagle version, the F-15X represents a significant leap in terms of technology and capability, and should not be confused with its direct predecessor. This aircraft was developed to replace the older models of the F-15 series and operate alongside fifth-generation fighters like the F-35. Combining the traditional firepower of the F-15 with modern systems. While it does not have the stealth capabilities of the F-35, the F-15X compensates with a lower operational cost and a significantly higher payload. It can carry over 22,000 pounds of armament, a feature that makes it highly versatile in combat, capable of air defense missions, precision strikes, and close air support. This makes it a valuable platform, especially in situations where stealth is not a critical requirement. One of the greatest advantages of the Eagle II is its state-of-the-art avionics suite. With modern sensors, advanced radars, and updated electronic warfare systems, the F-15EX has enhanced threat detection and response capabilities. Its radar, for example, can identify targets at significantly greater distances than previous versions, providing a decisive advantage in high-intensity scenarios. Additionally, it is designed with modularity in mind, meaning it can be easily upgraded with new technologies over time, maintaining its relevance in ever-changing combat environments. This flexibility allows it to adapt to multiple roles, such as interception, precision bombing, and air superiority operations. The U.S. Air Force's choice of the F-15X represents a strategic decision that balances cost and performance. It offers a robust solution for operations that do not require stealth, freeing up stealth fighters for the most critical missions. Ultimately, the Eagle II is a smart response to the need for high-performance air power without compromising the budget, ensuring the U.S. remains ready for any aerial challenge in the years to come. Number 7. The Shenyang FC-31 Gerfalcon. The Shenyang FC-31 Gerfalcon is an intriguing aircraft from China. About a decade ago, it was nothing more than a prototype with an unknown purpose. It wasn't an aircraft commissioned by the Chinese government, but rather created by a private company trying to showcase what it could build, in hopes of securing funding for future projects. The aircraft seemed to work well enough, but that's when things get a bit murky. Originally, it seemed like it would join the various air forces of the country, but later it was stated that it would be sold as an export aircraft to other nations. Fast forward to 2021. And a new variant of this jet was tested for the Chinese Navy, and now it appears that it will continue to operate there. Time changes things, and that's a fact of life. Number 6. The Boeing FA-18E and FA-18F Super Hornet. Next, we have not one, but two aircraft that could easily fit under the same designation. The Boeing FA-18E and FA-18F Super Hornet are U.S. aircraft that have been in operation for some time, carrying out various missions for the country. In 2020, there were 600 of these aircraft still in service, so clearly they are doing something right. The Super Hornet is equipped with a 20mm M61A2 rotary cannon and can carry air-to-air, air-to-ground missiles, and a variety of other weapons. Like any other jet on this list, they are highly capable of performing multiple types of missions, making them useful in global activities where anything can happen. The aircraft are so reliable that they serve as the backbone of the U.S. Navy. That is, until the F-35 Lightning II came along. Even so, that doesn't change the fact that these jets are powerful and capable of getting the job done. Number 5. The Sukhoi Su-35. Let's start by talking about a Russian jet that could very well destroy part of the world if unleashed. As you may know, the Russians are some of the best jet makers in the world. They were one of the first nations to adopt jet technology after World War II, and the variations they've made over the years have been quite impressive. As long as you're not the one facing them, they're quite deadly. The reason the Sukhoi Su-35 is on the minds of many now is that Russia is apparently working to sell several dozen of these aircraft to Iran. If you didn't know, Iran is one of the most dangerous powers in the world, so the idea of them acquiring several aircraft to strengthen their military isn't something that many world powers are happy to see. It was the United States that raised the biggest fuss about all of this and even tried to minimize the situation in certain ways. There's another reason why this is a terrible deal for those who don't want Iran to get these aircraft. Originally, the Sukhoi Su-35 jets were meant to be delivered to Egypt, and an agreement was underway, but the negotiations partially failed because Iran was one of the few supporters of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which is now entering its second year. Specifically, they supplied kamikaze drones to Russia, the purpose of which I hope I don't need to explain. And if Russia and Iran are getting so close that they're exchanging weapons, well, we all might be in serious trouble. Only time will tell, but these jets are capable of causing problems to other aircraft should an air combat situation arise. However, I hope this will be the only deal of its kind between these two nations. Number 4. The Northrop F-5. The Northrop F-5 is one of the most well-known combat aircraft in history, but its trajectory is undoubtedly marked by highs and lows. Although it is designated as an F, a designation typically associated with U.S. Air Force jets, the F-5 was not actually designed for use by the U.S. Instead, it was a creation of Northrop Corporation in the 1950s, aimed at providing a more affordable and efficient option for the air forces of allied countries and emerging markets. Originally developed as a light combat aircraft, the F-5 was designed to be simple, low cost, and easy to operate. With a design of two symmetrical halves, low-consumption engines, and accessible flight control systems, the F-5 was ideal for countries with smaller budgets but still in need of aircraft capable of air defense and ground target strikes. This concept allowed the F-5 to spread across a vast range of countries, such as the United States, China, Iran, and South Korea, among others, which saw the aircraft as a practical solution for their needs. One of the most standout features of the F-5 is its versatility. During the 1960s, the F-5 was a widely sought-after export model, used in various configurations, such as interceptors for air defense missions and attack planes for surface target strikes. Despite its relatively simple appearance and modest performance, the aircraft was designed to be highly agile, with excellent maneuverability in close-range combat, making it a good option for direct confrontations. The initial success of the F-5 was indisputable. Over the following decades, Northrop continued to improve the model, producing a series of variants and versions, such as the F-5E Tiger II, which offered greater firepower and enhanced combat capabilities. However, the F-5 began to become obsolete as new fourth-generation combat aircraft, like the F-16 Fighting Falcon, entered the scene. The development of more advanced technologies and the demand for stealth aircraft ultimately made the F-5 less competitive for countries seeking to modernize their air forces. The irony of its story is that, despite its initial success, the F-5 was discontinued in many countries, with future models cancelled due to a lack of buyers. What followed was a phase of relics. Many of the aircraft produced during the 1960s and 1970s were stored and, in some cases, sold to developing countries or rented out for military training. The F-5 not only became a symbol of a combat model overtaken by technological innovations, but also an example of how the air forces of smaller countries kept jets in operation for decades after their prime, whether for training purposes or even for patrol missions. However, the legacy of the F-5 is significant. The aircraft was designed to be easy to maintain and operate, with simple systems and low operating costs. For many years, it was considered one of the best options for nations that couldn't afford the more modern jets of the time. Additionally, its widespread presence in countries around the world made it an important part of the history of international military aviation. The versatility of the F-5 was not limited to combat use, but also extended to training operations, where the jet was widely used as an air combat simulator. Moreover, several air forces around the world still keep the F-5 in operation, primarily with upgrades in electronic systems and armament to extend its lifespan. Although the Northrop F-5 is no longer a frontline combat aircraft, it remains an important figure in the history of military aviation. Its ability to operate simply yet effectively earned it a place in the hearts of air forces that could not compete with the more advanced military powers but still needed a capable combat jet to fulfill their missions. Number 3. The Mikoyan Gurevich Ye-150. Now let's talk about a Russian prototype, the Mikoyan Gurevich Ye-150. The jet was developed by Russia to serve as a type of interceptor. It was being developed during the Cold War, when the arms race was underway, with the USSR and the US stockpiling weapons to try to improve their aircraft to deal with any challenge. Over the years of its production, multiple prototypes were created, each with the mission of intercepting using different types of armament. The problem is that many of them were never actually built. In fact, they were never fully operational and ended up being another failure of the Soviet Union in the end. Number 2. Convair F-106 Delta Dart. The Convair F-106 Delta Dart was the U.S. Air Force's version of an interceptor jet, but unlike the Russians, they created a functional model that is still in operation in certain capacities today. Don't be fooled, though. It wasn't easy to make this aircraft fully operational. When the U.S. thought they had a winning model, it ended up having several issues. Fortunately, an updated version was soon released and solved all the problems. They had to adjust several things to ensure it worked as planned. As long as you're not facing these planes, they're quite deadly. The reason the Sukhoi Su-35 is on many people's minds now is that Russia is apparently in the process of selling several dozen of these aircraft to Iran. If you didn't know, Iran is one of the most dangerous global powers, so the idea of them acquiring several aircraft to strengthen their military isn't something that many world powers are happy about. It was the United States that raised the most fuss about all of this and even tried to downplay the situation in some ways. There's another reason why this is a bad deal for anyone who doesn't want Iran to get these aircraft. Originally, the Sukhoi Su-35 fighters were meant to go to Egypt, and a deal was being negotiated. However, the negotiations failed in part because Iran has been one of the few supporters of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which has now entered its second year. Specifically, they supplied kamikaze drones to Russia, the purpose of which I hope I don't need to explain, and if Russia and Iran are so close that they're exchanging weapons, well, we could all be in serious trouble. Only time will tell, but these fighters are capable of causing problems for other aircraft should an air battle begin. But I hope this will be the only deal of such nature between these two nations. Number 1. The Grumman F-14 Tomcat. For those who know history, they know that the Grumman F-14 Tomcat was one of the most important combat jets ever created by the United States. For a certain period, it was developed with the knowledge that pilots and military personnel had gained from fighting against MiGs during the Vietnam War, and so they wanted an aircraft capable of handling those situations. When the Tomcat was completed, it became a dominant part of the U.S. Navy, replacing older aircraft that were becoming obsolete, eventually being replaced by the Super Hornet. Even so, while no longer the dominant aircraft it once was, it proved to be exactly what the U.S. needed at the time. And you certainly wouldn't want to see one of these launching missiles over your nation. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you enjoyed our content, make sure to subscribe to our channel and leave a like. Also, check out other interesting content that's appearing on your screen right now. And I'll see you in the next video. Until next time.